Deommodore Lenoir was arrested in LA last week. Really stupid story. Nothing really happened of it, but he got arrested, and his name was in the paper. Niners were in the paper for this. So, is this something that, I mean, he's 25 years old, your father? Is this something that's concerning to you, to the 49ers? How do you think they handle this behind closed doors? And do you think that he might get arrested? I mean, not arrested, suspended.
Well, I'm not gonna judge a 25-year-old Deommodore Lenoir, right? Like, he's 25, right? When I was 25, I did a hell of a lot worse, to be honest with you. When 25 is when I woke up and started getting my life together. So, I've done way worse than what this demo thing is. The biggest concern, this isn't what you asked me specifically, but the biggest concern to me is that Deommodore Lenoir's friend wasn't acting like a friend. Like, this guy is an NFL player, just got paid a ton of money, and you're throwing your keys to him in this situation. That's not what you need to be doing if you're a good friend of Deommodore Lenoir. So, Demo, you know this guy better than me. I hope this guy understands that. And if he doesn't understand that, you shouldn't mess with him anymore, because people like that can get you in more trouble than it should be. That's the biggest problem with this whole thing, in my opinion.
I'm going to take it a step further. I think what you said is 100% right on. Demo, I don't think you should mess with this guy anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, gun in the car, threw you the keys, like, nah, dude, you lost your privileges.
Yeah, I mean,
Whoever you are.
you want to roll around with guns in the car? That's your life choice. I don't recommend it, but when you get caught up with it, you throw the keys to your friend who made it out and is in the NFL and making hella money and putting his career in jeopardy. Dumb. You're not a good friend to Demo, whoever did this, for doing that. As far as Demo, what he did in it, it's a tough situation. Cops pull up on you, they hem your boy up, they throw the keys to you, you catch them. What do you do in that situation? As a mature adult man, you're probably calm about it. Like, hey, like, you don't say anything at all, but you also don't resist at all, and you just probably at that point you just hold the keys in your hand and let the police do what they're gonna do.
Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for playing. Use promo code COHN, COHN, and download the app now.
Why they were bothered in the first place, that's another discussion. Overall, it doesn't concern me about Demo or who he is as a person. I just think he needs to really be aware of the people he's hanging out with now, because he has a lot to lose.
This is why it would concern me from the 49ers perspective. Jed York, John Lynch. We just bet on you. Gave you 80-something million dollars, not just because you're a good football player, but because we feel like you're a pro and you're ready for this and you're grown up. And we know you didn't do anything bad down in LA, but just choosing to hang out with this friend of yours was a big mistake. And again, it's not like we look at you differently, but like, these are the kind of decisions you can't make anymore. These are the kind of mistakes you can't make anymore. So you know what? You get one. I would imagine, like, do you think Jed York brought him into his office, or do you think they like delegated this to John Lynch? It seems like something John Lynch could do well without alienating the player, but also explaining to them that this is, you got to prevent this from happening. And there are ways you can control this from not happening to make sure this doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, what Demo can control is who he hangs out with. And I think John Lynch is probably the best person to deal with this situation. I don't think Jed York gets involved in these things. I do think that friend, again, like, what are you doing? Like, if I made a dumb decision, like me and Grant are out somewhere, and I make a dumb decision that gets me caught up because of my actions, I'm not going to then throw the keys to Grant and put it on him.
Hey, let's do this together. We're in this together.
Yeah. So Demo's
if I volunteered, if I was like, hey, throw the keys to me, that'd be one thing. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Lenoir did that.
And if this is a good friend to Demo, he should hang out with him at his own house, and that's the only place I would see this guy, to be real. And even then, I don't know the guy, so I can't. But I have a lot of friends that I grew up with that I completely cut off because they're not on the same page as me. I grew up, and they didn't. They're doing things that are not on the same trajectory as where I'm at. And so Demo has to take responsibility for that as well. I mean, it's hard, but sometimes,
Mm,
let them say you're the guy who sold out. Okay, fine, I sold out. Let them be, you're the guy that changed. All right, I changed. Fine, that's
yeah,
fine. But you're
it's
not going to
true.
that situation.
Yeah, man, all I do is golf and fish now. It's true.
Yeah.
I'm boring. It's really, it's a nice lifestyle. One thing you kinda threw in there quickly, I wanted to go back to because it's right on. You're like, "This is not a Jed York thing. This is John Lynch." And I think, like, this is the value of John Lynch in the organization. If John Lynch weren't here, let's say they scapegoated John Lynch and fired him, but kept everyone else, who would handle this? Kyle?
No, no, he's
No,
not equipped for that. He doesn't have the emotional intelligence for that.
no. It
John
has to
Lynch,
be John.
John played in the NFL. He's had teammates and friends of all different lifestyles. He knows what's going on here. He has a lot of emotional intelligence. And see, the thing is, like, a lot of people give John Lynch a hard time. My only complaint with John Lynch ever, and I don't even know how much he's responsible for it. It's two things. One, not getting the contracts done early enough. This year they did that. And that could have been a Brog thing this whole time. I don't even know if that's on John Lynch.
Yeah.
The other thing is not fighting back on with Kyle about the importance of the offensive line. Those are the only complaints I have about John Lynch. I really like John Lynch. If I had to pick between Jed York, John Lynch, and Kyle Shanahan, John's the guy that I prefer out of all three. I think he's great, and I think he's the perfect the perfect person for this position. He needs to fight back on Kyle with the offensive line, and moving forward, they got to continue to get these contracts done early. Outside of that, I got no complaints about John, and I think he's the perfect person to handle this.
If you remember, like, under Harbaugh and Balky, this team had a lot of players arrested frequently. I mean, they didn't exactly control their image very well. And I think since Lynch has been here, that hasn't been an issue. They've been pretty much an upstanding organization with players who you would be proud of in the community. And I think I mean, that's kind of, again, the value of having him in the organization. If you took him out and it was just Kyle and coaches and scouts, like, we saw that with Balky and Harbaugh, it didn't work so well. So I think there is a value for whatever you want to call Lynch. He's not necessarily personnel guy, but he's the conscience of the team. I don't know what you'd want to say, but he's
I
important.
I feel like he's the culture.
The
I feel
culture,
like
the culture. Yep.
he is the culture of this team, right? Kyle's not
Mhm,
really the culture of this team necessarily.
mhm.
He plays a small part in it, but I think John Lynch is the tone setter. I mean, perfect example. What I always forget this guy's name. Campbell, Devondre Campbell.
Mhm.
Who handled that situation?
Lynch.
Lynch. He came down and handled that situation. It's very much his team to a degree. Kyle gets the final say on most things, but I mean, John Lynch is a big part of the reason why this team has had the success it has
That's
had.
such a good point. And to me, it's so wild that Lynch is the one who handled that because I don't know. I grew up in a world where the head coach handles that situation. Can you imagine if Marty Schottenheimer were the head coach, him not being the one? Or,
Yeah.
George Seifert, like, you're gonna really wait for the GM to come down? And then my thing with the Devondre Campbell incident was like, yeah, nice 49ers, way to put your foot down. But, like, where was this when Debo Samuel punched a long snapper? That would have been a good opportunity to be like, nah, nah, nah. This is unacceptable. We have standards. It doesn't matter who you are. If you do something like this, you're off the team. Because they eventually got rid of Debo Samuel, and the rest of the season was a wash. So, like, they could have made a stand then. And again, it should have been Kyle in both instances, but that's not what Kyle brings to the table, and it never will be.
Yeah, and I think the 49ers in general, generally speaking, under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, have had one of the best cultures, one of the best locker rooms in the NFL. I think that's a true statement. But there is room for improvement, and I think one of the areas that they can improve is the consistency, regardless of who you are, regardless of the politics and who you are on the team, how long you've been on the team, your relationship with the coach. The standards need to be the same because when players start seeing difference in standards and consistency, they start feeling some type of way. So that's as great as the culture is here with the 49ers. That's one way to put it at risk. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm glad Debo is gone because I think that relationship was getting in the way of football decisions.
You used a word that I just wrote down and circled and underlined. It's so true. And you meant it in a different way. I think it has got a double meaning for the 49ers. Politics.
Yeah.
There's roster politics, and there's always been there with this team. And it's sort of the like kind of dark underbelly of their culture that shouldn't be there. It should be more like the Harbaugh years were more of a meritocracy than this. But just last year, like straight up politics
Yeah.
were seeping into this team and like being expressed in interviews and stuff. And it seemed like the inverse of what was going on with this team 10 years ago with Kaepernick, where it's like if you go ultra left, ultra right, like this is a football team with 53 people who are trying to be on one page. And once you start going into that stuff, I feel like, I mean, there's obviously going to be people on the team who are like, oh, hold on, like we're endorsing Trump. Excuse
Yeah.
me. Just like, I mean, there were probably people on the team who felt like Kaepernick was like not speaking for them. You know what I mean? It's anyway, politics was an interesting choice, and I think that was a big thing with the Niners last year.
Yeah, people watch football to get away from that type of stuff, and I prefer it out of there. I understand there's things that are more important than football, so I can't control what people do in that regard. But politics in both forms of the meaning, in my opinion, would be great off the team. And I think the politics in the meaning that I was speaking about, as far as roster politics, the two things I would love to see the 49ers improve on more than anything is the prioritization of how important the offensive line is to your success. That's one. And removing roster politics and making it, you said the word meritocracy, making this team straight meritocracy, like opening it up to competition at all times, regardless of your relationships. You do those two things, and this is a good organization, and they've had a lot of success. But I think that's what's going to push it and could put it over the top.
With football, it's the ultimate team sport. You're trying to get 53 people on the same page, and politics is inherently divisive. The definition of politics, I looked it up right now. The activities associated with governance of a country or other area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. That is not what you're looking for on a football team.
Yeah.
You're looking to bring people together, not have them compete with their teammates to achieve some type of hierarchy power on their own team.
And what? That's one of the things I love about sports in general is it brings people from all different backgrounds, races, income,
Political backgrounds.
everything. It brings them all together, and they work
Mhm.
together, right? People that if they weren't playing sports would probably be arguing with each other on X about this or that. They're now playing together in unity, trying to achieve a goal together, and that's what I love about sports. And I would just love it. Again, this is a free country. People can say what they want to say and do what they want to do. But personally, I love that about sports, and I wish people would keep it that way.
I think we all had that experience playing sports as a kid. Like you grow up, you go to school, you meet friends, and maybe you have like a type of kid that you gravitate to on the schoolyard just because they have the same sense of humor as you, or they grew up in the same neighborhood as you, or whatever. But when you play sports, you have all these friends who didn't go to your school, who come from a different city, maybe, who wouldn't be necessarily in your friend group. And like every year you have new teammates and like sometimes those are your best friends, guys who you wouldn't normally become friends with if there hadn't been that team to spark it. And I
It's
miss
one
that.
of it's one of the amazing things about sports, and it's one of the reasons why if you have kids, if you're a father and you have young children, put them in sports. Doesn't mean that they're going to play sports in the NFL, NBA, or
Team
college
sports.
even. It's just there's so many life lessons that can be learned through sports, and that's one of the great ones.
Like there's a lot of life lessons to be learned through golf, mountain biking, skiing, tennis, individual sports. Those are track, but there is something about the team sport as well. And I think it's useful at some point in a kid's life to be on a few teams.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got some statistics on it actually. If I can pull it up here, maybe I can, maybe I can't. I just posted it on my channel about this. Yeah, I don't know where it's at. The statistics on it. I mean, it's better for them, uh, health wise, grades wise, social wise, in their work life. Just being able to cooperate with others. I mean, sports is such an amazing tool to teach. That's the benefits for kids. It's not that hey, my kid's gonna make it to the NBA or NFL or even college. That's not the goal. It's to learn all these life lessons that we're talking
Can
about.
you be coachable?